Dear listeners, I'm inviting you to make or imagine a star. 1 Star by Karen Jones. Music and sound by Edwin Facett. Inspired by Dr. Julianne Mullen. An old wooden toy box and a chair that used to belong to my father. To wonder, to dream, to imagine, to have 1 star. Just 1 star. Once upon a time, there was a rusty old wooden box. And when you open the lid, it would sometimes make a screeching sound. It was so old and ancient that the family who owned it would not put anything in it. They talked about throwing it onto the scrap heap, taking it to the dump, or better still, recycling it. But for whatever reason, whenever it came to saying goodbye, they just couldn't. And so, the old wooden box sat in a corner, lonely, sad, and empty. The old wooden box would have given anything for someone in the family to put something inside it. A toy, a book, a special blanket, a keepsake, anything. Just something to make it feel like it belonged, to make it feel like it had a purpose. But alas, nothing. Not one thing. And so, with the lid closed, the old wooden box sat in the dark. Feeling helpless and overwhelmed that it could do no good, it started to cry. Not 1 tear or 2, but 3, then 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, until they lost count of their tears and began to sob. As they were sobbing, they could see something glistening. A sparkle, a twinkle. The old wooden box dried its tears. They could hardly believe it. The old wooden box was a shimmer of bright light, and there, floating in the middle of the box, was a star. The star said to the old wooden box, "Why are you crying?" "I used to be loved by this family. They would use me for all kinds of things, toys, books, a special blanket, and I would also look after their memories." "Don't cry," said the star. "I'm in your box now, and look how shiny it is." "You are rather sparkly," said the old wooden box. "Oh, to wonder, to dream, to imagine having my own star, just 1 star." The old wooden box was filled with excitement until the star said, "If you could give me to 1 person, who would that be?" The old wooden box said, "You're so beautiful and shiny. You're the only thing in my box. Why would I give you away?" The star replied, "Because I am so beautiful and shiny, you should not keep me to yourself, hidden in a box. You should do an act of kindness and give me to someone." The old wooden box thought for a moment. And then said, "You're quite right. I will give you to the lady who lives in this house." Now, the lady who lives in the house was kind, loving and caring. She took great pride in helping others. She also had a tendency to hold on to things. However, today she had decided it was time for the old wooden box to go. There was a skip in their front garden. She looked at the skip and she looked at the old wooden box. She looked at the skip, and she looked at the old wooden box. She walked towards it, sat closely, and said, "You are a part of this family. I could never throw you out." As she started to walk away, the lady of the house heard a soft rumbling sound. She turned round and saw something, just slightly. A flash coming from the old wooden box. The old wooden box was rumbling, shaking, and then whoosh, the lid popped open. "Oh my goodness," she screamed. There, floating in the old wooden box, was a star. The lady of the house stood frozen, eyes bulging, jaw dropping, and her mouth was wide open. She could not believe what was happening in front of her very own eyes. The star swayed and floated towards her, and as she reached out her hand, the lid to the old wooden box closed. Gently, the star rested in her hands and said, "I asked the old wooden box, if you could give me to one person, who would that be? And they chose you. So here let our story begin, for I am resting in your hands. I'm inviting you to wonder, to dream, to imagine. The star that's in your hand. Me, dear lady, I am the star. If you could give me to one person, who would that be?" The lady of the house said, "I'd give you to the oldest member in my family, my mum. She's a gran and a great-gran." And as quick as a flash, the star was gone. The lady of the house felt sad, because not only was the star gone, but she thought about all the other members of her family who did not have a star. The old wooden box rumbled. The lid popped open, and there, drifting in the air, were enough stars for everyone in her family, including the cat and the dog. The lady of the house said, "This is amazing." She watched the stars disappear. Each member of her family had their own star. She sat and thought about what the star had said. To wonder, to dream, to imagine. And so she wondered, what if there were enough stars for all of my friends? And in a split second, the lid to the old wooden box popped open, and more stars danced in the air. Enough for all of her friends, and off the stars went. The lady of the house could not help but dream. What if there were enough stars for everyone in my street, everyone in my neighbourhood? The old wooden box shone brightly and started rumbling and shaking. The lid popped open and out flew hundreds of stars. Small stars, large stars, sparkly stars, newspaper stars, cardboard stars, fabric stars, colourful stars, plain stars, lots and lots of stars. And magically they all disappeared, gone into the distance to be placed into the hands of people who lived in her street and her neighbourhood. The lid to the old wooden box closed. It was still and quiet. The lady of the house sat next to the old wooden box. She stroked it softly and said, "Thank you." She lay her head on the box and could not help but think. The star said, "If I could give a star to one person, who would it be? The star also said, to wonder, to dream, to imagine. She thought about how all this started. A star came from the old wooden box and was given to her. She gave the star to her mum. More stars came drifting across the room. She gave these to her family. She started to wonder, and as quick as a flash, even more stars came for her friends. And when she started to dream, stars upon stars went into the hands of every child, every adult, and all the pets on her street and in her neighbourhood. As she rested her head on the old wooden box, the lady of the house smiled, and her smile became a huge, massive grin. The lady of the house started to imagine. Her imagination went beyond her wonder and dreams. She imagined, what if the children, the adults and the pets in my country and the whole world had a star? The lady of the house was grinning so much that she began to laugh. Imagine the whole world having a star! The old wooden box rumbled, shook, swayed. It rumbled, shook, swayed. It rumbled, shook and swayed. Then suddenly the lid burst open. There were hundreds, thousands, millions, billions of stars for everyone in her country and the whole world. The lady of the house sat up in amazement as she watched the stars dancing, floating and dazzling in the air. The room was bright, full of light, sparkling and glistening, and slowly they started, one by one, to disappear, to be magically placed into the homes of everyone in the world. When the last star was gone, the lid to the old wooden box closed. The lady of the house stood up and looked around the room. Although it was empty, there remained a natural, soft, beautiful glow. The lady of the house looked at the old wooden box. She looked at the skip and then said to the old wooden box, I'm going to give you a fresh coat of varnish. My family and I will treat you with kindness and make sure you have a toy, a book, a special blanket and a keepsake. It had been a long day. The lady of the house sat down with a cup of tea. And as she went to take a sip, she glanced over to the old wooden box and saw something, just slightly. A flash. She put her cup of tea on the tray, stood up, and there, floating in the air, was the star. The star said, My dear lady, the old wooden box kindly gave the star to you. And so, the story of one star started with you. Whatever do you mean? Said the lady of the house. I was your one star. Without any hesitation, you did not keep me for yourself, and so the act of kindness began. You gave me to your mum. Then there were enough stars to give to your whole family. You believed and wondered, creating more stars for your friends. You dreamed, and this made it possible for everyone on your street and in your neighbourhood to have a star. You imagined, and magically, there was an abundance of stars for everyone in this country and the whole world. So you see, my dear lady, from your one star, your one act of kindness, great things happen. The star floated around the room, and as it danced in the air, another star joined in, then another. Just as quickly as the stars left, they all came back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They were all dancing, floating, swaying around the room. There were hundreds, thousands, millions, billions of stars. The lid of the old wooden box flew open and all the stars gracefully went inside, all but one. For the lady of the house was holding her one star, and the star said, "You see, my dear lady, for every one that received your star, they have sent one back to you." The lady of the house kissed her star and said, "Thank you." She walked over to the old wooden box, lifted the lid. Her face shone with the billions of stars that were now in the box, illuminating the brightness of hope. She placed her star in the box and said, "Here is my keepsake." She softly closed the lid, sat back down with a cup of tea, and thought she'd always remember to wonder, to dream, to imagine, to have one star. Just one star. The end.